My mom said, "Let's take a break this Christmas without kids." I understood. Until I saw photos of their house full of people, including the nephews of my sister's new boyfriend. I just took a photo of the $12,300 gift and sent it to my dad with a note. "I don't think you need it anymore." 40 minutes later, my dad knocked on my door with. It was one of those moments where I didn't even know what to say to my kids. I just stood there in the kitchen holding the phone after my mom hung up, trying to come up with something that wouldn't make them feel rejected. How do you explain to a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old that grandma and grandpa don't want them around for Christmas? Mom had said it like it was no big deal. That they were thinking of taking a break this year. "No kids this time, just quiet and cozy," she said. I didn't argue. I just nodded even though she couldn't see me. But it felt awful. I was still in the middle of decorating gingerbread cookies with the kids. They were covered in frosting and excitement. I could already hear them talking about seeing Nana's tree. I waited until they were in bed before I cried. I had been saving since August. No vacations, no new clothes, just a second job and endless budgeting. All because my dad had mentioned a few times that he wished he had a slightly newer car. His current one rattled like a shopping cart. So I found a decent 2014 Civic. Clean, reliable, just within reach if I stretched. I bought it as a gift for both of them. Parked it in a friend's garage and wrapped the keys in a box with a photo of the car. It was supposed to be a huge surprise. I wanted them to feel proud of me. I wanted to be part of the family again. I thought maybe they'd finally see I was doing okay. So I said nothing when they told me not to come. I figured maybe they just needed space. Maybe it was nothing personal. Until Christmas morning. I made pancakes for the kids. We opened gifts. I kept smiling even though it felt forced. Then just after noon I opened Facebook. And there was my parents' living room full. My dad in a Santa hat. My mom laughing near the tree. My sister with her new boyfriend Sean. And 2 teenagers I didn't recognize. Later I found out they were Sean's nephews. So, not even family. But they were invited. I looked at the photo for a long time. Zoomed in. One of the nephews had his arm around my dad like they were old pals. That's when I took a photo of the Civic. Clean silver, still smelling new. I texted it to my dad with one line. "I don't think you need it anymore." 40 minutes later, someone was banging on my front door. I waited. Let the knocks come and go for a full minute while I cleaned up the kids' toys from under the tree. My hands were shaking, not from nerves, just something else. Something cold and sharp. When I finally opened the door, I saw exactly what I expected. My dad stood there, red in the face, not from the cold. Next to him was Sean. My sister's new boyfriend. The one I barely knew. The one whose nephews were apparently more welcome at Christmas than my own children. My dad didn't waste time. He said if the car was really meant for him, he wanted to give it to Katie and Sean. That they were talking about starting a family. That it would help them get on their feet. He said it so confidently, like I just nod and hand over the keys. Like I hadn't spent 6 months scraping together every extra dollar to buy that Civic. Like I hadn't stood in the dealership parking lot crying after signing the papers. I didn't answer at first. I just stared at both of them. Sean wouldn't even make eye contact. My dad kept talking, saying this was the kind of gift that should bring people together, and that I was being selfish by pulling it back just because of a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I asked him if he understood what it felt like to have to lie to my own kids. To tell them grandma and grandpa were too tired for Christmas this year, only to see strangers sitting in our spots in their living room. My 5-year-old made a card for them. My 3-year-old kept asking if Nana would have hot cocoa. I had to fake a smile and tell them we'd make our own holiday. Alone. Then I turned to Sean. Asked him if he thought it was normal to show up with 2 random teenagers to someone else's family Christmas, knowing full well the daughter and grandkids had been uninvited. He opened his mouth like he might say something, then just looked at the ground. My dad snapped that I was being dramatic. That the car wasn't about me, it was about doing something good for the family. That if I wanted to make a difference, this was how I could do it. I asked him what family. The one that forgot we existed? The one that couldn't even fake interest in my kids' birthdays but had room for Sean's nephews? He didn't like that. He said, "Fine, then let's just see the car. Maybe they could talk me into changing my mind once I'd calmed down." I said maybe. Told them I'd think about it. Let them hang in that hope for half a breath. Then I said no. I told them the gift wasn't theirs anymore. That I didn't owe them anything. That they needed to leave. No. They both stood there like they couldn't believe it. Like I was supposed to be the quiet one. The easy one. Then I closed the door. The knocking came back almost immediately, louder this time. I stood behind the door and told them through the wood that if they didn't leave, I'd call the cops. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said it. I watched them walk off through the peephole. My dad was still talking, arms waving. Sean followed behind him in silence. I really thought that would be the end of it. The next morning I took the trash out before the kids woke up. Walked around to where the Civic was parked. Both of the rear tires had been slashed. I saw it right away. I was taking out the trash early the next morning, still half asleep in my hoodie and slippers when I spotted it. The Civic was slanting just slightly off balance. I walked closer, still hoping it was nothing. But there it was. Both rear tires, clean slashes, almost surgical. Not some slow leak, not a nail from the road. Someone had done this. And it wasn't just the damage. It was the message. I stood there for a long minute, quiet. No one around. The lot was still. It wasn't just about the tires. It was about punishment. For saying no. For keeping something that apparently, in their eyes, never really belonged to me to begin with. I didn't call the police. What would I even say? I didn't have proof. Just an ugly hunch that my own father or Sean or both had something to do with it. Or maybe they just said something loud enough around someone stupid. Either way, it happened because I drew a line. The tow cost $140. The new tires set me back another $420. That was supposed to be January's groceries and gas. I didn't tell anyone. I just took care of it. Always do. That's the thing they never seem to get. I figure it out even when I shouldn't have to. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with an old notebook where I write down every expense. I added the tires under car emergency, and didn't bother labeling it as revenge. It didn't matter. I knew what it was. And I knew it wouldn't end there. A few days later, I drove over to my mom's house. I didn't call first. Just showed up. She answered the door like I was a stranger selling windows. Didn't ask about the kids. Didn't even ask how I was. I asked her flat out if she knew what happened to the Civic. She acted confused, then shrugged and said, "Maybe someone in your neighborhood has it out for you." That was it. Not even a pretend concern. Just cold indifference. So I left and drove to my dad's. He opened the door but didn't step aside to let me in. I asked the same question. I mentioned the slashed tires. He gave that tight, smirking shrug he does when he wants to look innocent without saying a word. Then he said, "Maybe this whole car thing wasn't such a good idea after all." And laughed. That laugh went through me like a blade. I didn't say anything else. Just turned and left. On the drive home, I started thinking of every birthday they forgot, every call they didn't return, every family photo I had to take myself. It built up like pressure in my chest. I realized I had to stop pretending they cared. New Year's came and went. I didn't reach out. I didn't post anything. Just stayed quiet. But 5 days later I got the call. My dad had been in a wreck. Nothing life-threatening but serious enough. He'd rear-ended someone on an icy back road in his old car. And that's when it came out, he'd forgotten to renew his insurance back in November. The other driver was pressing charges and he was on the hook for everything. When I got the call, it wasn't from my dad. It was from Katie. That alone was unexpected. She hadn't spoken to me since the car incident, hadn't so much as liked a photo of my kids in over a year. Her voice was weirdly calm, like she was holding something back. He said Dad had been in an accident. That he was okay, no one was seriously hurt. But then she mentioned something else. He had been on his way to meet a woman. Not my mom. Some woman he'd been talking to online, apparently for months. My mom didn't know yet. I just sat there silent, letting it all sink in. My dad, the man who gave me grief for being a single mom, who said my life was messy, had been sneaking around behind my mother's back. And now, on his way to meet that woman, he'd wrecked his car, and he'd let his insurance lapse. It wasn't just a mess. It was poetic. I didn't ask Katie why she was telling me all this. Maybe she thought it would make me feel something. Maybe she expected me to offer help. But I didn't. Later that afternoon, he showed up at my door again. This time without Sean, without attitude. He looked tired. His jacket was soaked from the slush outside, and he didn't say anything for a full 10 seconds. Then he asked me for help. Said the other driver was already asking for compensation. Said his savings wouldn't cover it. He needed help covering part of it, and if I still had the Civic, maybe I could loan it to him, at least temporarily. He tried to phrase it like it was practical. Like I was just being stubborn before and now it was time to move forward. I asked him if my mom knew about the woman. His face changed instantly. He didn't answer. So I kept going. I reminded him how he mocked me for being alone. How he said I was too sensitive for feeling left out. How he said my kids were too loud, too slow, too much. I asked him if he wanted me to teach him how to come up with lies for his own wife, the way I had to make excuses for mine to cover up his actions. He stood there silent. Then I smiled and told him I'd think about it, that I might be able to help him. I watched him start to hope. Then I told him to leave. His mouth dropped open. He asked if I was serious. I didn't repeat myself. He stood there like he expected the keys to just appear in his hand. And when I closed the door, he didn't knock this time. He just stood there for a minute, then walked off into the snow. Felt like breathing for the first time. The decision to stop paying for Katie's beauty course came to me like a switch flipping. No hesitation, no guilt. Just clarity. I opened our last transaction thread and sent her one short message. You'll need to handle next month's payment yourself. She saw it immediately. Red receipt popped up within seconds. No reply. For about 2 hours. Then the call came in. I ignored it. She called again. Then came the text. I thought you supported me. I thought you wanted us to succeed. Not me. Meeting her and Sean. Maybe his nephews too, for all I knew. That one word made it clear. She wasn't just taking from me anymore. She felt entitled to it. Like I owed her the same way I apparently owed my dad that car. I didn't answer. I just left her on read. The next day my mom called. I was halfway through folding laundry. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. Said she was worried and hoping we could talk this out. I didn't return the call. But she tried again the day after. This time I answered. I needed to hear it. To make sure I wasn't imagining the whole thing. She got to the point faster than I expected. First she asked if I had spoken to Dad. I said no. She paused, then asked if I had any idea who the woman was. That's when it hit me, he hadn't come clean to her. She'd found something and was looking for confirmation. I didn't give it. He switched gears quickly. Asked if I really wasn't helping them with the car issue. That my dad was stressed, and the whole thing had spiraled. That this wasn't the time to hold grudges. I told her I didn't think of it as a grudge. I thought of it as finally understanding where I stood. I reminded her how she told me to keep the kids home this Christmas. How there were strangers in their place. How no one asked how they felt about it. Then I asked her when the last time was that she even spoke to my kids. She didn't have an answer. I said maybe it was time she started figuring things out without me. Just like I've always had to figure things out without her. Then I hung up. That night, the family group chat that used to send out those recycled holiday memes and half-hearted birthday gifts went completely dead. Nothing. No awkward, Happy New Year messages. No, how's everyone doing? Silence. For a moment I felt the weight of it. But then I sat on the floor with my kids. We made paper snowflakes and watched cartoons. I listened to them laugh at something that made no sense. I felt calm for the first time in months. Over the next week, my sister stopped posting her usual filtered selfies with motivational captions. My mom stopped forwarding recipe videos I never asked for. My dad disappeared completely. By the time February hit, it was official. We weren't pretending to be a family anymore. By mid-February, the quiet had turned into something solid. It wasn't awkward anymore. It wasn't tension waiting to explode. It was just absence. No calls, no texts, no fake check-ins from Katie or just wondering how you're doing messages from Mom. My dad never followed up after I shut the door in his face. And yet, for once, it didn't feel like I'd lost anything. It felt like finally stepping out of a room that had been suffocating me for years. One night, after the kids went to sleep, I opened the photos on my phone. I went through the Christmas pictures. My kids smiling on the carpet holding toys I wrapped in newspaper. The little car keys I never gave away. Then the slashed tires. The tow receipt. The photo of the Civic after I got it repaired, polished, and sitting like a victory I never intended to celebrate. I swiped through all of it. Then I opened a flight app and typed in, "Anywhere warm." I wasn't even planning to buy anything. But when I saw a deal to Clearwater Beach, cheap round trip for nights in a modest family motel, I clicked without thinking too hard. I didn't want to plan it to death. I just wanted to go. I paid for the whole thing with the extra money I hadn't used on gifts. Some of it had been meant for groceries in January, but I'd stretched what I had. Like always. I told the kids we were going on an adventure. I didn't say anything about who wasn't invited. We flew out the last week of February. The kids had never been on a plane. My 3-year-old cried during takeoff. My 5-year-old fell asleep as soon as we were in the air. We landed to 72-degree weather and palm trees and the sound of gulls that didn't care who I had or hadn't spoken to. The motel was cheap but clean. It had chipped paint, noisy air conditioning, and a view of the parking lot, but the beach was 2 blocks away. The kids ran straight to the sand like they knew they were allowed to be happy here. Every day we collected shells. Every night we watched something funny on TV while sharing microwave popcorn. On the second night I finally posted a photo. Not for them, for me. The kids, faces lit by sun and sea air, holding up a lopsided sandcastle. No hashtags, no explanation. I knew they saw it. They just didn't say anything. On the third night I got a message. From my dad. "Did you really sell the car?" That was it. No greeting. No apology. No mention of the accident, the woman, the slashed tires, the months of silence. I didn't answer. I already had. When we got back, I sold the Civic within a week. Took the cash, paid off the last of a credit card that had been dragging me down for years, and stuck the rest in savings. Katie texted me a week later. Guess you're done pretending to care. I didn't respond. The truth is, I'm not pretending anymore. I care about what matters. My kids. Our life. The warmth in their faces when they feel safe. The space I've built for them without asking anyone for permission. I used to wonder what it would take for them to see me differently. To finally take me seriously. Now I don't care if they ever do. They had their chance to be part of our story. They chose not to be. The update. It's been a few months since everything with my family came to a head. Winter turned to spring, spring turned to heat waves, and somewhere in between I stopped waking up with that tight knot in my chest. The kind that made me feel like I was missing something, or that I was about to be blamed for something again. The kids are doing better than ever. My 5-year-old started asking big questions. Space, bugs, why people lie. My 3-year-old finally figured out the difference between a whisper and a scream, which is a huge win in our house. Our mornings are chaotic and messy and completely ours. I hadn't planned on posting anything else. I thought the story was finished. But something happened last weekend that caught me off guard. I was walking through the produce section at the grocery store, pushing the cart with one hand and trying to keep my toddler from hurling bananas out with the other. And then I saw her. My mom. She looked smaller somehow. Less composed. She had a basket with just 3 things in it. 2 apples and a frozen dinner. She noticed me before I could turn away. Our eyes locked. And then she walked toward me slow, like she wasn't sure I'd let her get close. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't talk about what happened. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She said, "I don't expect anything. I just hope you'll read it." I didn't say a word. Just nodded and took it. Then I pushed the cart forward and left. I didn't read the letter that night. I let it sit on my kitchen counter for a day. Then another. On the 3rd night after the kids were asleep, I finally opened it. It was written in her handwriting. Neat, careful. No grand apology. No dramatic explanations. Just her saying she hadn't understood. That she thought I didn't need them. That she assumed my strength meant I was fine. She said she regretted how things unfolded but understood why I walked away. She didn't ask me to fix anything. He just said she missed me. And the kids. It shook me more than I want to admit. I haven't answered. I don't know if I will. Maybe someday. But right now I'm still trying to protect what I've built. The peace. The space. The safety my kids and I finally have. I also got a message from Katie. It was vague and weird. Just a photo of a makeup kit with the caption, "Back at it again." No context, no actual words. I didn't respond. I'm not ready to pretend everything is fine. I don't think I ever will be. Right now I'm focusing on us. I finally booked the pediatric speech therapist I'd been putting off forever. I found a side gig I can do from home at night. I'm planning a road trip for the fall, just the 3 of us. And I'm still not sure what comes next. Maybe there won't be another update after this. Maybe life will just keep unfolding quietly like it always should have. But to everyone who's read this far, who messaged, who silently rooted for me, thank you. Truly. You helped me feel seen at a time I was convinced I was invisible. Whatever happens next, we're okay. We really are.